over.
Welcome back to Em and Bug Talk Books. This is episode 4. I'm Em.
And I'm Bug.
And today we are going to be discussing our new theme of the quarter, which is adaptations. So would you like to tell what adaptation we're going to be discussing?
Yes, because adaptations are my absolute favorite. And so the adaptation that we're going to talk about today is Where the Crawdads Sing. And so in that, Emily has read the book.
Yes.
And then we had a watch party, which was so fun and highly recommended, just to get everybody to sit around and watch the movie. So that was great. And we got to watch Emily absolutely squirm since she had finished reading this book. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then I love books that are adapted, which is why this is my favorite theme, one of the favorite things that we're doing. And so we'll talk a little bit about the theory, and you can think about it yourself too. If you think you prefer to read than watch, or watch then read, and we'll flesh some of that out when we talk about it. So if you are going to do a watch party, we rounded that out with movie candy, with popcorn, and
the projector.
Got the projector, dimmed all the lights, closed all the windows.
Full movie theater.
Yeah, full movie theater experience. And we just dove into this movie.
Yes.
So should I ask you questions, or do you want to just start talking about it?
Ask me questions.
Okay, so a few questions. So just to get everybody oriented to the book, because maybe they haven't read it first. So
yes.
Let's say, who was your favorite character?
The lead.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I can't even remember her name right now.
I can't either. Kaya.
Yeah. Kaya.
Kaya.
Yes. Okay.
We watched this a week ago.
Yes, we did. I know. We tried to do this pretty immediately too, but life happened.
Yes, it does.
So I could literally just be reading a book though, and then go some comments, and I'm like, who are these characters' names? But okay, so the lead character.
I tell you what, though, I don't have to think about my least favorite character's
that
name.
was the next thing I was going to ask you too, just to get us oriented. So this book is very much about Kaya's life, and
yes.
so you really follow Kaya from a young girl to basically to the end of her life.
Yeah.
And so we really flesh out a lot of who she is, where she is, why she is where she's at, and it's her life story, essentially, and something significant that happened in that story. So who is your least favorite character?
I go back and forth between, because things in the end come full circle, and I have to concede.
You have to forgive.
I have to forgive certain characters. We'll get into that later. Either Chase Andrews or Kaya's father, which I don't think Kaya's father's ever named.
I don't think he is ever named. Yeah. And that's very interesting, because when I was thinking about my not favorite character, especially having just watched it again, because it's more remote for me, very fresh for M. And I didn't even think about that. I was just straight up focusing on the overbearing, toxic individual that was Chase Andrews. So I didn't even think about the father, but you always make me feel a little, you make me recognize things or look deeper.
Right.
And so a lot of who she is, where she's at, how her life plays out, is really a result of her father and the toxic person that he was.
Yep.
All right. Did you have a favorite part, without maybe a total spoiler?
One of my favorite things that happens is, and this is more specific to the book, because it deviated a little bit, and I did not care for that. But one of my favorite aspects of the book is when she really finally truly reaches independence, and when she's not, she doesn't have to wonder where her next couple dollars is going to come from, and it comes from her own knowledge and merit that is directly tied to her situation and how she came up. So that was one of my favorite things, and that was one of the things that made me go in the movie, because they changed the order, and I felt like it lessened the impact. So whenever she was able to finally have some stability all on her own, without anyone else, that was my favorite part.
Yeah, that was great. And then I think the culmination of that, or the pinnacle then of the book, is when that independence is actually threatened.
Yes.
Right? So she's having, and so you've just also reminded me too of another favorite character, and that's Jumpin' Jackie's wife.
Oh, I love jumping.
Because I feel like they took her in as, I mean, they really loved and cared for her, and they just really embraced her. So I definitely think that was another character. So great. Okay, well, let's get into the movie. So it's kind of fresh in your mind, so I'll kind of let you attack it a little bit. Like if we want to kind of walk through, and as there's certain things that were happening in the movie. And so spoiler alert, because it's all going to come out here, right? We read the book, we've watched the movie. So if you haven't done so, you can either just, we'll tell it all to you and you won't need to read it or watch it, but we'll still actually recommend that you do.
Yes.
Or you could pause this, do that, and then you can really be on the exact same page. But great book, great movie.
Yes.
And then we'll kind of talk about, because you're already supporting my theory about watching then reading. So, but sometimes that is impossible. It doesn't always happen that way.
Right. So, spoilers ahead. So what the book and the movie share, and the main overall plot.
So I like that approach.
So the book and the movie both open with a murder. You think someone's dead in the marsh. That person is Chase Andrews, hometown hero, football star, universally loved. Asterisk, universally loved, sometimes in more literal ways.
His fake person is universally loved. The real person is not.
Yes. One of those, he's the golden boy. He's under the town's protection. He can do no wrong. Even when he does wrong, he can do no wrong. So that type.
Football player, wealth, all the things that probably drive us crazy today, when people can basically kind of be above the law almost a little bit.
Yes.
Do whatever they want. But like you said, golden boy, I think that's a perfect way of describing it.
Yes. So it opens with him dead in the marsh. And the local law enforcement, they're trying to figure out what happened. And that is constant through the book. That is constant through the movie. The whole point is figuring out what happened to Chase Andrews. And Kaya, who is also very uncharitably called the Marsh Girl, is the prime suspect. So the framing of the story is it's showing you how Kaya came up and the series of events that led to her being the prime suspect, because there's no indication of human movement of any kind in the crime scene where Chase, or accident scene, whatever, as it may be, where Chase is found. And they're like, well, the Marsh Girl could have covered her tracks. Like, she's literally the only person in this entire area that could possibly have done that, and she has ties to Chase. So that is the driver that makes her the prime suspect of this potentially murder.
And also something was missing, but I'm getting ahead of myself, because I find it very interesting that they brought that up and that he continued to wear that.
Yes.
So that does say something about the relationship there, but he's still a toxic person.
Yes.
But the feelings obviously had to be there, because that meant a lot to him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that also plays into, well, we can go into that later whenever we talk about it.
I'm like, woo, I'm all the way at the end of the movie.
So Kaya, and again, these are the things that are common to the book and the movie. Kaya grew up with an abusive father. Her mother leaves. You see her walking down the lane, and she never comes back.
Heartbreaking.
Yes. And then one by one, Kaya's older siblings leave, because she's the youngest, and they all leave her there with the abusive father, because they can't live with him anymore, because, they're all coming out with bruises and stuff, and the montage of them leaving. And so they eventually all leave her there. And she's like, well, I learned from their mistakes. I just avoid him. I keep to myself. And I go through. Well, eventually her father leaves as well. And she grows up, raises herself in the marsh. So she sells mussels.
She's pretty young too. Like, what do we think? She's maybe
8 to 10?
Yeah, because I was going to throw 7 out there. But yeah, I mean, she's like a young girl having to traverse, this. And like you said, she's just kind of learned, stay out of the way, be invisible, so to speak. And then, I mean, she's just a little girl, 7 to 10, and is having to learn, how am I going to eat and basically survive.
Right. So she adapts and she learns the marsh. So she's able to, sell mussels or fish or whatever to get money to put gas in the motor of her boat and to put food on the table. And, that's how she comes up. And so she starts learning, but she becomes a naturalist of the marsh. Like, she knows everything about the tides and the critters and the animals, the flora and fauna, for being, scientific and technical. And that plays a pivotal role in, the circumstances surrounding the trial and everything else, because like, that knowledge predicates her being the prime suspect. And so everything is very much interconnected in this. And that is one of the things that I really like about it. And then, the townsfolk, of course, because, she's out there in the marsh by herself, it very much goes into class dynamics.
Oh, totally. Class and prejudice.
And that was one thing that differentiated from the book that I objected to, was it did not delve nearly as much into the race dynamics. They left a bunch of that out.
And so they added that into the movie, or it was missing?
It was missing from the movie. They touched on it a little bit, but there was a lot of it that played into that, because the book very directly compared, like, the class issues with, Kaya being an outsider to, Jumpin' and Mabel, because they were African-American. And they actually, in the book, they were in a completely different town. They weren't even allowed to live in Barkley Cove. They didn't go into that.
Wow. Which is a missing piece.
Yes.
Because it helps flesh out the story and just kind of strengthen the divide that was there. And so both of them were outsiders, which I think is a huge thing that then brought them together, because they were the only people that were going to accept her. And they were the only people that, vice versa. She was the only person that was going to accept them, just for who they were.
Yeah. So we go through the whole film. We're showing, they're explaining in the trial how they thought she would have done the crime. And that was another thing that was missing, because in the book, they go into great detail as to every single step of how it would have been done. And that's completely missing from the movie. Like, they don't even they don't even mention the disguise, like, coming back from the out of town piece until the closing statement of the lawyer. And so I felt that was missing. I've jumped already into what's missing from.
But I mean, and that was huge for me too, just on a rewatch, is I was like, wait a minute. Again, you're just kind of left with what you feel is missing. And I do feel like they suddenly went from, we spent a lot of time in trial in the movie. They are doing some walkthrough. Basically, they're trying to establish that she definitely committed the crime. But in my mind, I felt like, wait a minute, was that in the movie or was that in the book? Because I feel like the book really did walk you through, like, how it was done,
And so much of it was predicated on her knowledge of the marsh, because One Piece, like, time-wise, it didn't make sense for her to go from because they knew that Chase had died between, like, midnight and 2 a.m. And Kaya was out of town, so she would have had to take the bus back. And the defense argued, well, like, there's no way she could have walked or even drove from the bus station to where she needed to be in order to kill him. There's she physically can't. And they were like, but if she'd taken her boat, then she would have shaved, like, however much time off of. And if there was a riptide or something similar, basically it would have made the boat go faster. That would have gotten her there on time. And they're like, she would know these things. And she would have, because she was the marsh girl. That's how she grew up. She knew those things intimately. So that's kind of how it made sense to the prosecution. And I felt like in the movie, I mean, don't get me wrong, in the entire thing, they did not have enough evidence to convict her on anything.
It was all circumstantial.
It was all circumstantial. But it made a more compelling argument in the book, because we knew intimately that she would know these things, and her knowledge of the marsh and everything that just naturally was a side effect of how she grew up played so heavily into how it would have been done and how she would have been able to do it. And so that piece was missing from the movie. And I feel like that if you watched the movie first, or if there was a distance between when you had read the book and watched the movie, because I read the book like a week before we watched the movie.
Which is the best way to do it,
like
to really be able to compare.
So I really was frustrated that it was missing not only a whole bunch of Kaya's life, but also explaining like how her life and experiences fed into why she was even a suspect in the first place.
Yeah.
So that was frustrating for me. But so
it was almost like she was too good at marsh life, though, right? Because she literally she was one of the marsh ecosystem. You know, I would say she was like very at one with it. She slept on her porch. I mean, she was just, you know, very much in tune with the environment. And it's almost like she covered her tracks too good, right? Because on the one thing, the two theories are it's either an accident or she did it, right? That's what we're really trying to figure out the whole time. And but if it were an accident, then there would have still even been traces of Chase himself being there.
Right.
But it's almost like she knew too well to make it look like nothing had been there, including herself. And I don't know how anyone could possibly like erase their tracks and not the other. But that's where the question really rolls in. And I didn't really, I mean, I guess it makes total sense, but I guess in my mind, I didn't think about it. Like, if it wasn't an accident, then who else would be the suspect? And so there's nobody else that could have possibly done, you know, like I didn't really think about that.
Right.
Which also shows you too, how she was really strategic, because she also had to do something to get him to meet her there.
Right.
Right. And I don't remember whether they covered that in the book, or, I mean, they definitely didn't cover it in the movie. But the thing that always stuck with me was her father told her, don't trust anybody, and you just have to figure out how to survive. And I think that she just had that absolute survival instinct. But it was almost like she was too good at it. She was too good at it.
Right.
Yeah, because there was nothing there.
Right.
You know?
But again, as her lawyer pointed out, there was a high tide that day. So it was possible that the high tide had just come in.
And she would know that.
She would know that. The timing. She would know exactly when the tide would come in.
That's very true.
To wash back out. Or it could have just, if he fell and it was an accident, it would have just come up and washed it out. And like, we don't know. So you spend the entire book and movie, and that's another thing they have in common. You spend the entire book and movie being like, well, who did it? Because you don't know throughout the entire book and movie who did it. And you have to wait until the very end of both book, and I'm talking like last 2 pages, 2-3 pages of the book, and the last 2-3 minutes of the film to find out who did it, because the evidence is so circumstantial. The jury finds her not guilty, because they don't have beyond a reasonable doubt that she was even in the vicinity, much less actually
They can't prove it.
They can't prove it. And so we come to the aftermath of the trial, and
then she continued on with her life. Yeah. So let's go back to so that you can compare and contrast how they addressed and handled this in the book and how they addressed and handled it in the movie. And so even though Kaya she was left, so she definitely, I don't know how you cannot have some abandonment issues from that. She was a survivor, and even the person that ran everybody off was like, whatever you do, you have to learn how to survive, you know, and rely on yourself. But there is still the desire, and I don't know, maybe that just comes with us growing up. Like you tend to want a couple, or, you know, like that coupling, to where there's the desire for love and attention. So I did find it sweet when they were younger, her and Tate, and they were younger, and they met as children. And, you know, I did find that kind of sweet. And so, but then he left her and didn't come back. And that is the only reason, I'm going to say it's the only reason, that she was then left to be easy prey. And not that I think she was easy prey, because I don't, but he left her to be prey to the whole Chase coming in, because, you know, in one regard, you know, it's kind of like, I think she still wanted to be loved in the end. But she also knew that she was not going to be stuck in an abusive relationship either.
Yes.
She
was
and
like,
Tate did come back.
Yes. Okay, so this is getting to where I'm going to give you very animated.
So let's hear it.
Okay, so if there are no haters of Tate Andrews, I am dead. Because that boy pisses me off.
Yeah, rightfully so, though.
Yes. So,
because he knew what he did and he disappeared, and he's happy that she even took him back.
Disappeared anyway, even knowing how she grew up. Okay, so Tate was a friend of her older brother Jody, and they met when they were very small. He actually stood up for her, and that was common to both book and movie. That happened in both, where her father like backhanded her like off the pier into the water, and then was dragging her up by her hair, and Tate got between them. That earned him a stay off my property or I'll kill you to a 10-year-old. Classy, but he did. So he knew Kaya from very little, and then as they got older, and this is something that I didn't appreciate about the movie, deviating, because she was 8, 9, 10 whenever her father left, and so Tate was, I think he was 4 years older than her in the book, so he was 11, 12, 13, so they were very young when their friendship like restarted. So they knew each other, they didn't interact for a while, but then after her father left, Tate comes back and he's looking out for her. He sees her in the marsh. She gets lost one day. He takes her home, and they're very little children at this point. And then he comes and he leaves the feather on the tree trunk because he observes her and he sees her. Like he's one of the only people that like actually sees her for who and what she is, and realizes like that's a person, not the marsh girl. Like that's Kaya. And so in his observations, he's like, oh, like she enjoys, like she's a naturalist, basically. He doesn't have the words for that because he's a kid, He's like, she's a naturalist, and she's never gone to school. She went to school one day and she never went back. So Tate realizes from, interacting with her in the marsh, she's like, oh, she's a naturalist. So he leaves the feather for her. And she is thrilled down to her bones. She has no idea who left it, no idea why, but she's like, this is clearly left as a present and it must be for me. So she's like, I can't leave without, bringing something in return. So she goes to her collection and gets a like comparable interest and value is how she thinks about it. Yeah. Like an equally interesting present, and leaves it for her gift swapper. And they go back and forth, and then it does, similar to the movie, like they interact when they're both coming to the tree stump to kind of, swap out presents, that run in. But the difference is they're still super small in the book, and that's how their friendship kind of like restarts almost immediately after her father leaves. So they're very young, but in the movie they're already up. They make them, they're young adults. Yes. Almost at that point. Now, to be fair, I was already side-eyeing Tate in the movie because I had read the book and I knew what he was going to do. But it made it worse, honestly, because I'm like, well, you're just like, what do you want? See the play. What do you want, young man? Like, instead of it being an innocent, just like, this is just kids, forming a relationship and like growing up. Because their relationship turns into more of something else as they grow, as she grows up. Yeah. Because there is a notable age difference, and she's out there in the marsh by herself, and so it starts out as just purely human connection of these children, and until Kaya hits about like 15, 16 years old, when she's more turning into like a woman, that's when Tate's like, oh, girl. So, but you've grown up. Yes. And so I was like, the side eye of Tate came early in the movie, and he's because even seeing her grow and develop into that. And so that does say something about the relationship and the length of the relationship. Whereas now that development has already happened. He's meeting her as a young woman. Yeah. And so I was just like, what do you want? It changes it up. Yes, it does. And changes it up. And I understand that the pacing and everything else is going to be different in a book versus a movie, because it's a chunky book. Like, it's not short. It is. But it's good. It's so good. Don't let that deter you. So that was one differentiation that I did not like, was the fact that it really rushed her childhood, and her childhood is so pivotal to who she is and how she is. So anyway, Tate. I'm a Tate hater. This is Tater and Bug talk books today. So he knows that all of her family eventually left, like one by one. He knows her trauma behind that. He knows the issues there, and to his credit, they never move past like making out, basically, in the initial stages of the relationship before he leaves her.
I know.
So he recognizes,
which is just so wrong.
Yes,
on so many levels.
Yes. So I will credit where it's due, and this is common to both book and movie. He recognizes, you know, she came up differently. She's a girl, number one. Also, she can get pregnant. This is much more riskier for her than for me. And he verbalizes, I don't remember if it's to her or to himself in like a thought process where, you know, yes, she looks like a woman and she's, you know, developing, but like she came up so different and by herself, like the understanding of the dynamics and what it means probably aren't there. So he recognizes like some grown ass men don't.
Yeah, that is true.
That there was a developmental difference.
There was the opportunity to take advantage, and he did not.
He did not. Yes. So.
Yeah. So you're like, I'll give him that.
So I'll give him that. It's fine. But then as he grows up and gets ready for college, and she's still in that like 15, 16-year-old range, and he's going to go off to college, and she very rightfully is scared that he's going to leave. Although I believe that was one thing that also was like a little bit different. She was way more emotional and outwardly expressive in the movie. She was very stoic in the book. Like whenever she was around people, it was lockdown. Yeah. Because that's what she had to do to survive with her father. And that's also what she had to do in the marsh, because you can't be observing critters and stuff if you're, you know.
Yeah. She knew to be quiet.
Yes. And I think probably that was a little bit of a choice, because would audiences have liked her in movie form if she hadn't expressed as much? Yeah. Well, I would have.
Yeah. And then I think too, how do you understand the character? How do you know what's going on in here? I mean, I think that it's possible, but I'm sure it's got to go really, you've got to think about probably so many things to try to emote a character who is, I don't think she was withdrawn, but someone who learned to be quiet, who could be unseen. How do you really get that out there? Because I found, in this instance, I did read that book first before I saw the movie, and, you know, I thought they were both excellent, but you still recognize the differences and what, you know, where you think, you know, how you feel about those differences. But I loved the character in the book, and it's true, the book, you get to know her so much more because you can hear her inner thoughts. Right. And you know, like, what she's thinking. In the movie, I really like the character as well. But it's, how do you get to know someone if they're not, you know, how do you learn about them? Yeah, because they had certain aspects, like, that she was narrating. Like, they incorporated that into the... And maybe that's why I think she was very, like, more outgoing compared to one. But maybe it's just because you're hearing her talk, but it's not like she's talking to people. Right. So I think creative. Right. Tate. Yes. So he's going off to college, and he assures her, promises to be back, swears, on July 4th, because that's the summer. And does he? No. And why not? Because, as he very cowardly admits later, he thought he was going to have to choose between Kaya and everything else. And he actually, I think they skipped this in the movie, but he actually did come back later, and he saw her. It was the only time in the book that she was seen when she did not want to be seen, because she didn't see him first. Wow. He just happened to see her in the marsh from afar. And instead of going and talking to her and being like, hey, I'm sorry, I was a coward. Because it was only like a month later at that point. Like it was in like September or something like that. It was very close, because he came back to town. He just never came back to her. Yeah. So it's like you're even there in the vicinity, which makes it even more horrible. And that was devastating. And that, whether we realize it or not, that is the beginning of this issue. Like, that's it right there, because now she is yet again left alone. She's got to figure out life by herself again. There is nobody there. Is that when she decides to send in her art?
So that is another departure that really bothered me, because it very much plays into her finding that independence and balance on her own. The way it goes in the movie is, before Tate hauls off and leaves her, he is like, hey, what could it hurt for you to send off your art and everything else to like this publishing house? And I'm like, this makes no sense. This is a teenager who's never been to college. Why is he thinking about these things? Because in the book, that does not happen until he comes back and shows his face and apologizes. He's all done with college, and he's a professional in like research and stuff. So it makes sense that he would interface with that type of stuff. And so that's kind of his penance in the book. He's like, and he doesn't expect anything from it. Basically, in the book, he comes back, sees she's with Chase, and he's like, I respect that. Oops, that's gonna be loud. Sorry. So he goes, I respect that. I care about you. I want you to be okay. So here's some information about Chase. Do with it what you will. I'm still going to be your friend. And also, I went and researched this thing that could very much help you for no reason other than I care and I want you to be okay, with no expectation of getting anything in return. And he continues to be her friend, and, you know, just takes a step back, which is the only reason that I am able to forgive him. So the change.
But you were immediately mad when he showed his face the first time in the movie.
I was like,
and I'm like, what don't I remember?
Certified tater hater. So that was the order in the book. It was,
which makes more sense. And I think maybe because I had read the book, I could believe that. But if you just saw that, you would be like, how do you even know? Like, you have to have some knowledge, right, to even know that you could do that, and where you're going to send it, and its possibility.
Especially since his return and forgiveness was basically just like, please take me back. Instead of it being like,
let me help you.
Let me help you with no expectations. Let me look out for you. Let me take a step back. Because he did in the book. Like, it was enough amount of time that he showed that he did in fact care for her. It was because he was remorseful, and he wanted her to be okay regardless of who she was with romantically. Like, even if it was Chase Andrews, he was like, you need to be okay. And so that played an integral part in like me being able to accept, spoilers, that, you know, eventually we shift from Chase back to Tate. And I was like, all right, I'll allow this. It's fine. But because he left her, because that is both in the book and the movie, enter Chase. She is reeling from once more after opening herself up and allowing herself to trust and rely on someone. She is now left alone. And that was another thing, because him introducing the book and everything before, that was kind of him giving her something to kind of like lean on, because he knew he wasn't coming back. In the book, he just left her.
She's just on her own to figure it out.
It really changed the dynamics, changing the order like that. And so I was like, that didn't really sit
because
as
you're like, in the movie, you're like, well, you know, that was helpful.
Right.
You know, whereas again, you're not really able to appreciate the gap of when he did leave her. Because she didn't have that.
No.
Whereas she had it in the book, or in the movie. So it makes that time, you can't appreciate the solitude and the loss and the devastation. I mean, they show us that she's very devastated and sad, and you know, almost that's when she yells out, right? It's just like she doesn't even know how to deal with that much anger. But still, it does change the dynamics in the characters.
And then one of my absolute favorite parts of the book that it just made me go, and then just feel like there was some steadiness for Kaya. And it's when she's published her books, she's gotten the royalties from it, she's got the advance payment, $5,000. And that's huge. I mean, that'd be huge now, but that was huge. What time frame is
Yeah,
this
what
set
time
in?
period is this? I mean, it had to be like...
Chase dies in 1969.
Okay.
So it
all right.
starts
So
in the
we're
50s, and then it
that
moves
makes
forward
sense.
through a big chunk of her life, because she's like 28, something like that,
Yeah.
whenever the book, not when it ends, but when the main meat of the story is, when the trial is happening. So $5,000 way back in the day, for a young woman who has been, digging muscles to survive.
Yeah.
For
has no education.
No education apart from, because Tate does bring books,
nature,
and
he teaches her how to read. I mean,
and math.
Yeah,
and then
he does a lot of things that really bring you into it.
And this is before he leaves.
Yeah.
So the order, I think, really makes a lot of sense. It has a big impact on how you feel about the story and the relationship. And so I was just sitting there growling, because one of my favorite things, and they changed the vibe of it in the movie a lot. So she's gotten her royalties and everything else, and then the issue with the ownership of her land comes up. And in the book, she goes in, they're like, okay, you need to have some kind of title or deed, and she finds out, okay, well, if we're gonna, like, anyone who comes in and pays the back taxes basically owns the property, whether that's
which
you
leaves
or
her
someone
homeless.
else, which leaves her homeless. And she was like, okay, like, this is going to be thousands of dollars. Hit me with the number. And it's something like $180. And so in that exact same moment, she walks out with the deed in the book.
Oh,
because she has already become a published
money.
naturalist, and she has the ability, like, she's done the upgrades to her home and everything. And so as soon as she figures out that, like, that's a thing she needs to do, she already has the resources to do it.
Yeah. And
she walks out of there with the deed and title to her property that no one can take away.
Which is huge. I loved it when she refurnished, when she, was able to make the home that she wanted to make it.
Yes.
Because she was still just living with what was left behind, we'll say.
Yeah.
And so that's a huge deviation then from the movie.
Yes. Because
or the movie seriously deviated from the book.
Especially since she sits on the publishing list for years, because he gives it to her in the movie before he leaves, and then goes years and years and years and doesn't do anything with it. And then goes into the deed office, and they're like, oh, you owe $180 in taxes. And she's like, oh, what am I going to do? And then she hurriedly rushes off to send her artwork and stuff. And I'm like, honey, publishing doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's not how it happened.
Right. And so at that point, I was just like, if the developers are already snooping around, that would need to move very quickly. So I was just like, why? Why would you choose to deviate it like that? So that was frustrating, because that was one of my absolute favorite moments for her in the book, was whenever she was able to walk in with,
she was already on top of it.
She was already, she knew.
Yeah. And I often wonder about that too, when they make a decision to deviate, because they put it in the movie. So it wasn't like they didn't have time to put it in.
Right.
However, the way that they put it in, they chose to put it in differently. And does that really make the story any better? Does it really, I mean, it obviously changes the whole dynamic, but why change it? It was already meaningful, and it was already good. And we already got, I feel like we were supposed to get from it originally. I don't know. I mean, are they trying to make it seem more desperate, or
I don't know.
Why change it?
I have two theories. One is they wanted to lessen the heartbreak of basically make Tate more likable. Oh,
okay.
It's he left her something, it's not his fault that she chose not to act on it. And I'm like, that really deviates from the character and the vibe of what it was. Yeah. It also made it where he didn't really have to do anything to get back in her good graces, other than be like, oh,
just show back up.
Just show back up.
Just show back up and be there.
And then I don't know, maybe it added more drama for it to be like, oh, is she gonna get money in time and lose her home? This girl's been through enough drama. We don't need any more drama.
Yeah.
Let her just walk in there, because just the way that they described her walking out, and how she felt, and the impact of that. Oh, I have what I need.
You may have appreciated that more. But again, I feel like, maybe it's another little drama point where we're like, oh my God, she could lose. I mean, because at this point we're like, she's lost so much. And now we're like, oh my gosh, she may lose that again. So maybe they felt like it was just another little drama point to throw in there, as opposed to she was already successful in that regard.
Right. Right. And just these deviations and stuff is part of what kind of makes it so hard to just talk about like the book and the movie like in sequential order, is because it's so different in a lot of really impactful ways.
They changed the order, they changed the dynamic, and it really, you know, and again, I'm like, I don't know, did you have to do that? Did it make it different? Or just try to understand, like, maybe, like you said, like your theories, why did they throw it in differently? But it does make it more challenging to talk about when you actually sit down and try to talk about it.
Yes.
Because everything is not happening, we already know that things are not going to happen in the same way, but they often don't also happen in the same cadence.
Right. But I'm not a certified movie hater. There is one really big thing that I really enjoyed from the movie adaptation.
I was going to say, I loved the book and I loved the movie.
I like the movie
talking about
too.
The dynamics and the difference. So you should read it. You should watch it.
Read it, watch
They're both
it, enjoy
excellent.
it.
You will be left profound. It's just interesting that, again, it's just this theory. Do you read first? Do you watch first? Because you're not necessarily saying that one is negative or the other, but you have different feelings if you actually see the story in two different mediums.
Yes. But the one thing that I absolutely thought that they nailed was the casting for her lawyer, Tom.
Oh,
I love that actor. I really should know his name. I'll put a little of who it is whenever I'm doing editing. Loved him. He's a fantastic choice. He really nailed how I saw the character relationally toward her in the book. Now, on that same note, another thing that they changed and they added that I really thought changed the a vibe of how it went. She never interacted with him earlier in the book as a child.
Oh, see, and they put that in there.
They did. No, his thing.
Right?
Yes, his thing. He came forward to defend her, partly because of this overwhelming guilt, because he had seen her entire life, how they treated her. And that was part of the drive behind his passionate defense of her, because he was like, no one has defended this girl her entire life. We have been heinous. Whether we were actively like talking bad about her, mistreating her, or whether we sat by and watched. We've all done it. We're all complicit in this. And that's part of what made it so impactful for him to finally step forward and be like, no, you know what? Not this.
Look, I'm going to help you.
And it also kind of changed because, you know, it was like no one in this town had the time of day for her, apart from Tate, who left her, and then Chase, who abused her, which we haven't even gotten to that yet.
There's a lot in this story.
Yes. So like Tom basically, and it never directly goes into it, but he was like, this is enough. Like, not this. This is too far. It's been too far for a long time, but this is what prompts me to act.
Yeah.
And so
now he's an elderly man. So again, you begin to look back on your life and you see the mistreatment and you see that she's not going to get a fair shake in this if somebody doesn't stand up for her.
Right. And so to throw in, and I understand why they did it, because it was a little jarring for me reading the book for Tom to appear as a character that late in the story. I was like, who is this? And then you read and you're like, oh, this is someone who has seen this go down. That makes sense.
Yeah. And so somehow they had to convey that, right?
Right.
And so I guess it was to show you that he had actually been present all this time.
But I feel like just having him be an observer would have been more impactful. Like,
because they spoke.
Yeah. Because he tells her like, keep your chin up. Like, you have just as much right to be here as anyone else. And I'm like, if anyone in that town had done that for her, then it wouldn't have turned out the way that it did.
Yeah.
So it just kind of, that I understand from a creative perspective why they had that in there. And also like criminal underuse of that actor. Like, yes, please give him more screen time.
Yeah.
But I really wish it had been, and this also could have, was a little critique of mine of the book, if they had introduced him as a character, as like, you know, Tom the attorney, or like, because he was still practicing when she was a kid, you know, he saw and said nothing. Or, you know, he went home to his wife and was like, I don't know why they treat her that way, or, you know, whatever. So that way you have this character in your head, you have that intro. And so I felt like that would have been, that I was like,
maybe a better way to portray it.
I loved the scene. it made my heart go, oh, like the Grinch. It grew 3
like somebody
sizes
cares
that
about
day.
her.
It's like, oh, someone cares about her.
Yeah.
But part of the point of how she grew up is that no one
did care about her. Yeah, nobody gave her words of encouragement and said, hey, I see you, you belong, except for Jumpin' Jack.
Except for Jumpin' and his wife Mabel, but they were also outsiders.
Why am I calling him Jumpin' Jack? It's just Jumpin'.
I think it's just Jumpin'.
Yeah, it is. I don't know why I'm calling him that. Again, we've got to get straight on our character names.
We do, yes. We should. Maybe
we're going to do better.
Yes. Well, because this is at least the second time we've had been like, what's the name?
Yeah, we're like, oh my God, this book was so impactful. Wait a minute, what was their name? But it's the character that hits.
It's the relationship.
It's the character, it's the relationship, it's the dynamics. But we will do better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll make us a little cheat sheet and we can like review it beforehand. So Jumpin' and Mabel, they were also outsiders. They were also not accepted because of their race.
Yeah.
So no one inside Barkley Cove ever showed them any kind of acceptance or grace or understanding or anything. And that's part of what created this bubble that she grew up in the marsh. Because like if an old man on my way to school, whenever I was 7 on my first day of school was like kind to me, like I would probably have gone to him for help or acknowledged him in the supermarket or whatever. It would have really changed.
Suddenly you're not alone. There's actually another somebody.
Yes.
That, would recognize you. And that town is so small. Like once he'd given her words of encouragement, theoretically, they would have been running into each other along the way. Yeah. Not like she was going into town a lot or anything, but just still, there would have been another adult who was aware of her situation that again may have had the desire to reach out and help her. Yes. And I guess maybe that was the way to show that he had seen her, had done nothing, and now he's coming forth.
Right.
But whereas once Jumpin' and his wife knew of her scenario, she was also always coming into their store because that's where she was able to bring in her clams, right? So she's like helping her get shoes and helping her get clothes and things like that. But again, honestly, if he had seen her as a child and then done nothing, I don't know. Maybe it makes me mad for the character in the movie.
Right, more mad.
Yeah, more mad about that character in the movie. And then, yes, he comes to her aid at the final hour after knowing she was already there struggling.
Right.
But I guess the point is that he did nothing, whether he had spoken to her as a young child or not.
That's a fair point.
He still did nothing. Yeah. Right. But we immediately accept him.
Right.
Because now his character is kind of that gentle, helping, I see you, I'm coming forth because nobody has done anything for you. And I have some guilt. Like I need to do this to atone.
Right. And that was another thing, kind of going back to what I had said before in his closing statements, he calls out Jumpin' and Mabel. And he's like, they're the only people in this town who ever showed her any kind of, care or whatever. They're not in that town. They're not allowed to live in that town. Oh, they're in the segregated town that's further down. Yeah. Like that's a completely different setup. So it really did. I was like,
because they're like nobody in this town.
Nobody in that town did.
They were not in this town.
Right. So that, and I felt like that really kind of played into, how they connected.
Dynamic. Yeah.
But one thing, they did introduce Mabel very early. In the book, she doesn't see Mabel until she's on her own. Like she wasn't there when she comes in with her father and everything else. Like it's further down. Because the first time you see Mabel in the book, and I love that I'm able to discuss this in so much detail, that book just hit me hard and I loved it. It was great.
It's a great story.
So she's on her own and she's, dug up all the clams and she comes in and she's like, can I sell these to you? And he's like, yes, you can. Like it's first come, first serve. I will say in the movie that was really funny that her being there.
Like, you will buy from this child.
Yes, he says, well, if someone else has already sold to me, then I can't take them. And Mabel's just like, like hell you won't. Yeah. So I did appreciate that, and I understand this is probably more of a pacing issue, but they introduced Mabel way earlier because basically Jumpin' goes home and she's like, what is all this? And he's like, that little girl Kaya that I told you about, like she's I think her dad left, and she was like, we gotta do something about this. And so she sends by proxy things from the church to give to her, and then I think she finds her later, and she helps her when she has her first period and everything else. And so that was another thing that I really loved about Tate before he left, is she was like, I don't feel good, like this is like I'm dying.
Yes.
And he was like, do you remember that book I gave you about like lady mammals? And he's just like,
yeah. How do we broach this?
And he's like, you might want to read it again because something might be about to happen. And she's just like dying inside. She's like, oh my gosh, yes, I knew this was going to happen. I just never connected it to happening to me. Yeah. And so he gets her home, and then she goes to Jumpin' is like, I need Miss Mabel. And Jumpin's like, I'm sorry, like she's at home. She doesn't come in on the regular. And she was just like, I need Miss Mabel. And he just kind of looks at her, and then he's like, let me send one of the kids to go get her. And so I think that may be one of the first time that incident,
the first actual interaction that they had,
is what spurs the regular interaction between her and Miss Mabel, was that bonding moment. And also, like, credit to Tate, like he was just like, this is what's happening, and everyone remain calm, but like,
let's just get you the help that you need. Someone who can really help you. But I think I know what's going on here.
Yes.
And
but another thing that I side-eyed in the movie was that they had Mabel talking up school to her, like, oh, like it wouldn't hurt, like you might learn something, blah blah blah. In the book, which this was completely missing from the movie. The whole ordeal with her going to school, she did go to school one day. That was it. The kids were heinous and she never went back. But there is an entire running sequence where the truancy lady comes and tries to get her, because they know where she lives.
Right.
They're trying to ascertain if she's out there by herself and find her so that they can get her to go to school, because all the kids in the county need to go to school. So it is a running thing from the time she's 10 years old till she's about 16, when kids could drop out and, go to work, and it wasn't as strict anymore. Yeah. But for many years of her life, she was dodging the truancy lady, and I don't remember if it was law enforcement or like school officers or whatever, but there would sometimes be men that would also be there with her. And so like Jumpin' and Mabel, they would come out to her. They would come out to them and be like, "So when's Miss Kaya going to be around?" And they're like, "Who?"
Yeah, they're like, "What are you talking about?" Like they had the one guy in the movie nosing around, but she did have to learn again even more how to hide and not be seen. And so again, it just shows you how she was able to be unfound when she didn't want to be found, and to be invisible, which also led to her ability to be able to hide her tracks.
And also Jumpin' and Mabel, immediate distrust of the establishment for obvious reasons.
They weren't going to hand her over.
They weren't going to hand her. They didn't hand her over to school. They didn't hand her over to law enforcement. They didn't hand her over to anyone who came sniffing around asking about their Kaya. They were like, "Who?"
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, so her and her dad come by all the time. Don't know when. Yeah. It's never the same, but like, yeah, her mama comes and buys stuff. Like they cover for her.
Yeah, they do.
And that was through school and everything else. So I kind of was like, that's an interesting choice to have, Mabel be talking up school when in the book, like they were like, nah, like we're taking care of you because we know how sideways establishment can go for people on the outside. Like they intimately knew what that would look like. And they were like, nah, we're not about
going to be supportive of it. It's like they were respectful, but they also knew to fear the establishment. Yeah. And they knew that it really was not going to be in the best interest for Kaya and her life as it was. Like literally the goal would be to take her out of her life.
Yes. And so that just kind of feeds more into like them really backing off of the perspective of race in the movie versus in the book. Like it was very much a concurrent plot line, and it was leaned into because that was part of how they connected. Like that was a huge part of the dynamic and everything. So I was kind of disappointed that was only really briefly touched on. Yeah. I believe it was when the developer came and he called Jumpin' Boy.
That was when you really felt it. And then maybe trying to think if there are some other times where I think they just kind of backed off and just acted very just kind of closed off. Like, I'm just going to answer the question. I'm just going to say yes, sir. That type of thing. And I do feel, though, that is really the only time that they did that. And it was a stronger thing because, again, we're talking about marginalized communities,
right?
Marginalized people. And this is an example of how they really did stick together and support each other.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Chase.
I was just thinking about our dearly departed Chase. So movie book.
I didn't like him from the get-go.
No.
So, I feel like they had to come up with somebody, probably no shade to the actor, I should probably say. But, I mean, I hated the character.
Yes.
I hated everything about him.
Yes.
The way he spoke, the way he looked, everything. Because he was just, such a sleazy, slimy, evolved, felt like he was just the best thing ever. And so, like, they didn't make me like him in the book. Like, I don't think I fell for him for a minute in the book, but I think they did a good job of casting that character. I've never seen that character in anything else to make me see that actor in a different shade or see what he's like actually really like as himself, you know? But yeah, I just immediately just could not stand the character.
I will say, again, a little deviation from the book versus movie. There is a point, a very brief point, where I didn't mind Chase. When he initially comes sniffing around, so it's after Tate left, and she's just absolutely devastated. But she has a moment to, like, basically come full circle again. It's like she said with the water in the marsh. It's still there, but it's deep.
Yeah.
So she's stable.
She's come back into her own.
She's come back into her own. Yeah. She's taking care of herself. She's hardened off. And she even describes it as she never loved Chase, but she didn't want to be alone, and he was offering company.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's enough.
Yeah, sometimes it is.
So when he initially comes around after Tate's gone and she's kind of, stabilized and everything else, the scene where, he takes her on the picnic and tries to, get fresh, and she's like, what the hell is this? That's accurate. That's accurate. That's common to both. And what he says in the movie is pretty accurate to what he says in the book. He's like, I'm sorry, that was wrong. Like, I moved too fast. And in the book, at least, she asked him basically, like, what are you about? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know. You're intriguing. You're pretty. You're different. I want to know what you're about. Basically, I don't know what I want. Like, I don't know if this is a long-term thing, but I know I want to get to know you. Right. And she's basically like, okay, fair. And that's kind of how it starts. And I'm like, well, he's being honest, at least. Like, he's not saying like Tate did, like, oh, I'll come back and blah blah blah, and then haul an ass. He's just like, look, I don't know. Yeah, you're intriguing, and I won't do the things. Like, I'll keep it to myself.
Take it slow. Yeah.
Until you're ready or whatever. And he does. And so for that moment, that period of time from when it first starts, and he's honest with her.
That is true. Initially, you don't like him. I mean, I didn't like him because I'd already gotten to the end of the book.
And also, when he's a kid, he's a jackass. Like, he's a little spoiled brat. Yeah. And he's the talk of the town and the football star. So, like, we already don't like him. But, I mean, he is who he is, and he's honest with her for that brief period. But then he moves into lying to her because he's the one who brings up marriage and everything else first. And she's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, no, like, when we get married. So I don't know what, because that's also in the book, that's also in the movie. Like, that's a common denominator, is he brings it up first. He's like, well, when we get married. And she's just like,
wait, what?
What do you mean? Like, this, we were operating on, I don't know, I want to get to know you. And suddenly this is coming
spending
up.
Time together, and now we're at that.
And it wasn't even like she was asking like, oh, what are we? Or whatever. She was content. She was like, I have companionship. I have someone to hold.
So that is all on him. I mean, he chooses to bring that in.
So,
I think, again, as we dig more into his character, I feel like he was struggling with what he was expected to be and living up to that. And then there's obvious this piece then where he is interested in Kaya and she's something different. And he does say, like, you're the only person who really sees me.
Right.
Something like that, right?
And she would have been.
And yeah, and so he's the one that's really pulling that. The thing that makes me maybe go back and really question his character is the fact that she had given him that necklace and he never took it off.
Yes.
Despite he obviously broke her heart because she finds out that he's lying to her, and the expectation is that he marries somebody who is of his class, and he has to be that. But I don't think he really wants to be that. He is that. It's the expectation that's forced upon him. Bad on him for not being able to stand up for himself and do what he wants, but he then leads Kaya on, which I don't think is fair, which is what makes me mad.
Yes.
And I don't like the character that he's supposed to be, like what society expects him to be, that part of him.
Yeah.
But something does draw him to Kaya. And I think that in the end, he truly did have feelings for her.
Yes.
And I would base that on the fact that he never took that necklace off.
Yes.
So she obviously meant a lot to him, but I was still just mad because he did lie to her, and he did, again, put things in her head that he didn't need to do. So maybe it was something he wanted that he knew he was never going to be able to do.
Right.
So why even introduce that fact to her?
Right. So my read on it, I'm not a fan of Chase Andrews, but I didn't mind him in the initial. And so my take on how it kind of progressed was, he meets Kaya, they start up, and this was like everyone in town knew that Kaya and Chase had something going on because he would go into the marsh, but he would never bring her into town. But, small town, people talk, people are out in the marsh, they see him together. And she gives him the necklace. She finds a shell, I think on their first date.
Yeah.
And she makes it into
very rare
a necklace.
that it would be there on that beach.
Yep. And it's one of her interesting and valuable, going back to the, because it means something to her. And so she makes him the necklace on the red cord, and she gives it to him when they initially start out, and they're talking and everything else, and he puts it on. Man never takes it off. Even after.
Yes.
Well, he never takes it off.
Which is a huge, amazing, shocking clue.
Yes. So he puts it on, never takes it off. So my prevailing theory is that when they first start and it's just them, he's like, this is what I want. I am content. I have real feelings here. This is outside of what I'm expected. She sees me as a person and not the town golden boy. I can just
act a particular way.
I can just relax and be myself.
Yeah.
And she accepts that. I don't know if she loves that, but she accepts and sees who I am, and I accepts me. Which is huge. That's what we all want, right?
It is. Yeah.
And so I think that the gossip and everything else got to him because he didn't have the strength of character to be this is what I'm choosing. Even though he bragged about he would be able to do that. If I tell mom and dad that you're my choice, that'll be that, and they'll love you. He would say that, but he didn't really believe that.
Yeah.
So that's whenever he went and started performing the expectations, getting engaged to the preacher's daughter, whatever equivalent, the acceptable young woman in town of similar class and standing, and, kept going over here. But I think whenever he started having to kind of cave over here is when he started introducing the, when we get married over here, because he was basically self-regulating and being no, this is what's going to happen. This is just for show. This is just for now. This is what I really want. This is what I'm going to do. And also kind of that panic, because it's I know I can't do both of these things at the same time. I'm going to have to choose. And he knew he was going to choose over here.
Yeah.
But I feel like that might have been kind of why he started introducing the bigger ideas over here, was just kind of out of panic on his own end.
It was the struggle that he was going through.
And Kaya never once thought or knew that he had anyone else.
Right. Yeah. Because in the end, I'm not going to say in the end, he was coming into her world, and then that's where they were existing and having their relationship. But then when he left, he had to go back into his world, where there were expectations. She was never really in his world.
Right. And I will
say, she really did not have an idea of maybe what was going on with him,
Right.
which she finds out by surprise. And I can't remember in the book if she finds out in the same way that she finds out in the movie.
Yes and no. In the book, when Tate comes back, he's like, hey, you should know either he's got a girlfriend or he's got a fiance. Like, he's with this girl, and everyone knows it. So, like, this is going on at the same time. He's got stuff going on with you. And she's like, nuh-uh. And then she sees it in the paper, very similar to what she does in the movie. So that does happen, but it's basically reinforcing that Tate was telling the truth and Chase is a POS.
Yeah, he's playing both
and so
sides.
She breaks up with him. And a period of time goes through where they're not together anymore. And he still keeps the necklace on.
Yeah.
So I think at that point, whenever she's like, no, like, you don't get to have both, like, you made your choice, like, you made your bed, go lie in it.
Yeah.
I think that is when it turns into possession. Not that it ever didn't have that underlying in there, like, this is mine. Because, like, Chase is not a good person.
He had full control. I mean, what else was she going to do? But again, you feel like it is mutual eventually. But then, you do kind of see, like, he feels like she is his. And so now he can't accept that he can't continue to have her.
Yes.
You know, because he does still want her.
Yes.
And so that's when it becomes, you begin to see how he reacts when he doesn't get what he wants.
Yes. Yes.
Which is negative.
Yes. So at a certain point, I believe he's drunk.
I think that's when it first happens.
Yeah. So they come across each other in the marsh and, so he's been drinking. She's like, get away from me. Like, I'm not going to do this where I'm like, the side piece, like the weird marsh girl freak. Like, you're either with me or you're not. Like, we're not doing this. And he assaults her, or attempts to assault her. I mean, he does, because he hits her and knocks her to the ground and then attempts to proceed with the assault of a different nature. She clacks him with a rock. Go girl.
Yeah, she does know how to protect herself.
Yes. Gets away. And that was actually one of the big things that also made her a suspect in his death, was the fact that on the beach, there were two gentlemen in a fishing boat, and they saw her getting away from him, which, how interesting that they're willing to come forward whenever Chase is dead, but they're not willing to come forward whenever they saw that he was harassing and potentially assaulting this young woman, because
that is very, when they chose to speak up, and it wasn't on her behalf. Right. It was on his behalf, which again, just, nor did they come to her aid or say, hey, are you okay? And so again, I think it really is another example of the divide in the two different worlds that they're in, and how she is marginalized. Like, nobody's going to help her, but when it was Chase, now it's a whole different expectation and attitude.
Suddenly everybody knows when and where they saw her and under what circumstances. And
and up to then she was invisible, especially if she was the one who was being wronged.
Yes. So that kind of catches us up, because at this point, after she gets away from him, and she says this in the book and in the movie, she says that she learned from her father that men like this must always have the last punch. And he basically begins stalking her, where he's coming to her house at random hours, and he's going to places he knows she's going to be, and she's having to hide. And she gets this offer to go out of town to talk with publishers about her next book.
Before that, what I thought was very, very upsetting, which also I think pushes her to know that she has to do something, and that is when she goes off to hide, and she comes back to her place and he has completely ransacked it. Yes. Which is very, very hurtful. Yes. And how that is just so personal for somebody to come into your space and destroy it.
Especially since, she grew up there and it was not hers. And then she made it hers. And then she took the things that she earned on her own and put in running water and electricity, and had all of her naturalist collection and livelihood all set up exactly how she wanted it. Was her space. And to have him come in, and she went and hid, and to just have violently destroyed it. Yeah. It's such a violation. Yes.
you know.
Mhm.
So yeah, so I think that just really pushes
Mhm.
it, and it's just very devastating when, I mean, you're reading it and hearing about it, but when you see it, you're
Yeah.
just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she gets an offer to go out of town and meet with her publishers about more books, because the wealth of knowledge that she has, like
It's
it's
amazing.
it's incredible. So like she could do an entire book on just fish, and then an entire book on just butterflies or birds or whatever.
Yeah.
And I felt like the movie kind of like reduced what she knew to like birds, because it was always birds. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
you love
But
birds.
they took
you really
off the
love birds.
feather idea,
Yeah,
and like
which
just kind
I
of ran
understand
with
with like
that,
pacing
but
and everything, but she, in the book, it was everything. It was like,
Yeah.
we're gonna need way more books because you know about the tides and the water
the whole
life
marsh
and just
ecosystem.
everything, because that was her life and that was her family, basically. Like the marsh took care of her.
Yeah.
So she gets an offer to go talk about her next book, gets on the bus, people see her, she goes out of town. The next day, that's when they find Chase dead. So she's out of town, and the argument is her knowledge of the marsh and like where her hotel and everything was, she would have been able to come back, push Chase off of the tower, and then clear her tracks and get back to where she was undetected. And it's very intimately tied to her knowledge of the marsh. And one of the most compelling things that links her to the scene is that necklace that Chase keep touching this.
I know. It's gonna be fuzzy. So if you guys are getting interruption, you know why.
My fault. I'm so sorry. So that necklace that Chase never took off is missing from his person. And so who would have cause to take it? Who would have?
So there's two things that, again, it's all circumstantial, but who else could cover the tracks? But again, they explain that with the tides, and like, you don't think that she wouldn't know that that would be a thing. Now, the only thing is the fingerprints up top, like she did such a good job of you know, all that. But I mean, she would know that, you know, for sure. And then the fact when his mother is like, he wore this necklace all the time. I felt like his mother didn't even realize that that necklace was given to him from her, because she was just like, this necklace that he wears all the time, right? She never acknowledges that she gave him the necklace, or does she?
She does, but kind of in a like, I'm not going to acknowledge this marsh trash kind of way, because he's like, this necklace, and then she says, who else would have had?
Which is acknowledging that
she never actually says like, oh, she gave him this necklace and they, you know, had a relationship, because she can't bring herself to, because, you know, that's their feelings.
So those are two things. Yeah, two things that you're like, because up to then it's still circumstantial and you don't know what the outcome of this story is at this point.
And so after all the evidence is presented and everything, you have the deliberation and everything else, and then they find her not guilty, because again, they can't even prove she was at the scene that time. To everyone's knowledge, she was out of town, and the way this would have had to set up so perfectly would, like, they don't have any proof.
Yeah, but they don't have any proof, and it would have to be so calculating, so well planned. Like there was a minimum amount of time that the crime was able to be committed to even pull it off. So that's another thing where you're like, gosh, this is just practically impossible to do, and without any hard truth. So the trial, a couple of things that stood out to me, and so you can, because again, the movie is more fresh now than the book, and to me, it all is one thing together now. For me, it's almost hard for me to tease them apart, honestly. Her brother finally comes back.
Yes,
you know. And so he is there at the trial. And then, of course, Jumpin' and Mabel are there at the trial. And then I think those are really the only supportive people that are there and on her side.
And her publisher.
Oh, and her publisher.
Yes.
Yes. So those are the only three people that are there. And so, again, it just really breaks your heart that in this tough time, and I'm sure like this happens, but it is very hard to understand how you would leave that little girl there by herself. And basically, he's coming back because he hears about the trouble. I think her brother
came back before. And he basically he saw her book.
Oh, he saw her book. Okay, so that's how he comes back. So her 3 supporters then at the trial were her brother. Again, it's just shocking that nobody ever came back for her at this time. And then when he sees that she's doing well, but no other family ever comes back. And then her mother obviously had some struggles. So she had tried to communicate, but in her efforts to get back to her, she just never did get back to her.
Yes, and then she got leukemia and unfortunately passed away. So that was heartbreaking. She basically went through a psychotic break.
So at least you feel like the mother never came back for her for a reason. It's so shocking and hard that she left.
Died trying to get back to her after leaving because of basically a psychotic break, being like, oh, I need to go home. Why am I away from home?
Yeah.
And being transported back to being a teenager, basically. Right. So very heartbreaking, conclusion to the wondering about where her mother went and why she left and everything else. So very minimal support at this trial. And in the closing remarks, Tom, in her defense, he's like, look, we got nothing. It's all circumstantial. The only thing we have basically is our prejudice against the Marsh girl. And we're a little crooked, so I'm going to fix that.
Okay. All right.
I don't know how I did that. So he says basically all we have is our prejudice, and it's time that we are finally kind to the Marsh girl. And at that point, we've come to the end of the trial. They've presented all of their evidence, and they find her not guilty because, again, they can't
which
even,
is in alignment with the book.
Which is in alignment with the book.
We're expecting this.
Yes, because they can't prove she was even in town. Like, as far as anyone else knows, she was in the other city, talking with her publisher, went to bed.
Had dinner, all this other stuff.
Had dinner.
People knew her whereabouts.
People knew her whereabouts. And from the not guilty verdict, we see the rest of her life from there until she passes.
With Tate, who has now come back into her life. And so they develop a loving, lasting relationship.
Yes.
You basically see them going gray.
Yes.
And now we have a character switch and they become themselves in older age.
Yes. And Jody and his wife bring their kids, and they have, like, she has a family at this point.
Actually, yes. I mean, you are kind of happy with where, like, you feel like she's okay.
Yeah.
You feel like more than okay. You feel like she's happy. She's able to move on with her life with a family.
Yes.
And a partner that is positive and that she really had never had before. So you feel happy with where she's at.
Yes.
And you're thinking the story's just going to end there.
Yes.
It's a happily ever after.
Yes. And it is a happily ever after.
It is actually, it is a happily ever after. So this book gave me the closure that I complain that some books don't give me. And then the movie, I think they did a good job too at the end as well.
Yes. So one of the main reasons that they come to a not guilty verdict is because no one could ever find the necklace. And what happens after she passes and Tate is going through her things as an old man grieving his wife?
I am getting chills. Just you even.
You do the honors.
I just remember the feeling of it when he is now going through and he's looking at her art and her books. And he gets to the back of the book and like part of the book has been cut out. Like there's a secret hidey place in the book. And he pulls out the necklace.
Yes.
And so all of a sudden you come to the realization that she did kill Chase.
Yes.
And she had to do it in order to survive. Like we understand why she did what she had to do.
Yes.
But up to this point, you were still not knowing, but that makes you know 100%.
Yes.
And it just, the shock of it and the surprise of it is just, it's well played.
It is. And let me say, I support women's rights and wrongs.
Yes.
Because
so we are completely supportive of what she does.
Yes.
Are we sad? No. Are we just surprised? Yes. And it's more that she was able to pull it off.
Yes.
And to me, it helps, I don't know, like you're vindicated because you knew there was no way he was going to leave her alone.
Right. And you also knew that even with knowing that he was hunting her and like trying to kill her.
Yep.
There was no, like, she was still going to go to prison if they could prove she did it. Like, there was no support for her, even in her most vulnerable moments.
Yeah.
So,
So she wins. And to me, that is just the most shocking moment. Somehow, though, they make you feel so sad at the same time. So, like, I don't know if happy is the right thing, but it's just this surprise, because you feel so sad for her loss, and he is grieving her loss when this happens.
Yes.
But then you see that at the end, and it's a weird mixed emotion of surprise, but then also happiness for her that she was able to do it and get away with it for all this time.
Right.
And again, supporting women's rights and their wrongs. Nobody was going to protect her. She protected herself. And so you get this amazing rush of emotion and vindication at the end.
Because was it really a women's wrong? No,
it wasn't. He was going to kill her, or she was going to kill him. Because she did kill him. Yes, she would have spent the rest of her life in prison, even though it truly was self-defense.
Yes,
because she knew that she wasn't going to be able to go, mano a mano with him when he showed up to beat her up or do whatever. But she strategically got him to meet her there. So he probably thought oh, we're going to get back together. Who knows?
Yeah.
But it is just the sweet symphony of her being able to win out against all odds.
Yes. And that really is the theme of the whole book. And it ties the way that she was able to execute it so beautifully and with so much precision.
Yes.
Was because she knew what day to do it on, because the tides would be in her favor. Mm-hmm. She knew that what day that the tide was going to come in and wash away any evidence of footprints and everything else. She intimately knew all of these things. And I felt like that was really the biggest thing that was missing from the movie, was really hammering in that's how they knew that she would have the knowledge to be able to execute it in this way, but they couldn't.
Prove it. Yeah. So you end up loving her for all that. You're sad that she finally passes away, but she passes away in the marsh being loved.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I also love that both book and movie keeps you guessing, because I remember I was sitting at my lunch break at work. I'm sitting there reading, and it gets to where Tate finds her and she's passed away in the marsh as an old woman doing what she loves.
You're so sad.
And you're just heartbroken. I'm like, but wait. We still don't know what happened to Chase. Yeah. Am I going to go through this book and not know if she did it or who the hell killed him?
Yeah.
And then in the last 2 pages,
it's so well played.
It's so good. That's when Tate finds out, because he thinks she's innocent.
Because she never even tells him.
She never tells a soul. But one thing that was missing from the movie, I think they had it, but they didn't really highlight it they did in the book. I believe she reads the poem that she wrote about how she lured him.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yes, there is a poem, because also that was another thing.
That's why I was there's something missing from the movie.
Throughout this, she finds a poet that she really likes, Anne something or another. Mm-hmm. And she references them in her works and everything else. And then there's a poem by that poet, and you find out that that's her. That poet that she's been referencing, that's her under a pen name. Yeah. And she wrote a vague non-confession about how the firefly lured the predator or whatever. Yes. And I'm just you're feeling this with Tate in the moment. You're finding out with old man Tate, which I do forgive him.
Total shock. But he stuck with her till the end.
He did.
He did have to forgive him his trespasses.
Yes. Yes. So it just the feeling of being but who did it?
Yeah, exactly.
And then finding out that she did, in fact, protect herself with such finality.
Yeah, yeah. So whether you read it, whether you watch it, there is just that huge rush of emotions at the end when it all comes together. Mm-hmm. I mean, just totally stuck the landing, and again, just left you with so much emotion. So just excellent on all fronts. Yes. It's always interesting. So if you had to go back and do it over again, would you prefer to have watched it first, read it second, or would you do it like you did it the first time?
I am very much a read it first, watch it second kind of person. But on this one, I think I would have liked it, because I'm always read it first, always. Mm-hmm. But I think I would have liked it more. I would have enjoyed the nuance of the movie more had I read it further away and didn't remember all of the details
that's
so
true.
intimately.
Yeah.
But I think on this one, it probably would work. Watch it first, read it second too. But my preference still remains read first.
But that's a good point. Maybe there just needs to be more time in between. And so maybe I will keep that in mind because I've picked up the next thing that I'm reading. And so I was thinking I would quickly jump into the adaptation, but I'm wondering if it's better if there's a little more time. I'll probably try to do a close-up watch because, you know, I'm a big watch it first, read it next.
Yes.
But I think that, yeah, maybe maybe it's just about balance, you know, in the time. So.
And sometimes it just kind of like it just falls where, for example, Project Hail Mary. I saw the movie. I have never read the book.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure I knew there was a book before I went. No, I did because my sister told me. But I didn't have time because the movie had just come out. And I was like, well, I'm not going to, because it takes me a while to get through books sometimes. And it's not a small book.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I'll go watch the movie. I'll enjoy it for what it is. And it was so good. So now I'm going to go back and read the book. And so I'll have an experience.
So it's where the universe takes you.
Yes.
Yeah, it's where the universe takes you. What comes first. In the book that I'm reading right now, it more came to me. I picked it up because I was like, okay, I know there's an adaptation. So I'm doing it different this time, but it's just the way that it came. Yeah. So maybe there isn't an absolute hard and fast rule. It just kind of depends on how it comes. And then you sit around with one of your book besties and you just talk about the nuances.
Yes. Well, with that, that is all of episode 4. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hope to see you on the flip side and love you. Bye.
All right. Love you. Bye.